Hello, everybody. Justin Stivers here. Thank you guys for tuning in for another episode of the Stivers Show. Very excited to have a good friend, colleague, just awesome lady all the way around, Miss Yvette Ayala. How are you, Yvette?
Good. How are you, Justin?
Good, good, good. So we've known each other for a little while, and I've wanted to have you on here for a while now, just because I think you're an attorney. You've got a nonprofit that you run, and you're just doing a bunch of really cool things. And I know that a lot of people, mutual friends and colleagues, especially in the legal space, right? I think a lot of attorneys maybe are not getting as much fulfillment out of the profession as they want. I think,
Yeah.
a lot of attorneys want to, at least I hear, want to be doing something else or whatnot. Maybe they're happy with it, but they just maybe feel like they want to add something else to to personal life, professional life, whatnot. And I think I've kind of seen like the transformation in you, where maybe that was kind of how you were for a little. I don't want to speak for you, but maybe that's how you felt a little bit. And then you open this nonprofit, Reclaimed Earth, which is doing awesome things. And one of the last events we were all able to go to was the gala, so you got lucky on that before everything shut down.
The Big Bang right before the world closed up.
Yeah. So anyway, so I want to talk a little bit about that because I think again, I think probably to a lot of people an inspiration on like, hey, wait, I can be an attorney and I can do something else and I can give back in a different type of way. So we'll chat on that, but kind of where I always like to start it off is, who are you and what do you do?
So like you said, my name's Yvette Ayala, and I am an intellectual property attorney. I also provide general business services, so like general counsel services for startups and small businesses locally. The concept of that is basically protecting anything creative. So if it's a business, it's your brand, it's how you brand yourself, how you market yourself. We help protect that so that others can't copy it. And then if you're an artist or a musician or a writer, we help protect and police your work so that you get the benefit, like the benefits that are supposed to be yours as the creator. So that's what I do from a legal perspective. Reclaimed Earth, I started 2 years ago now, and it's like my passion project. The whole purpose is to create awareness and create grassroots funding for organizations on the ground saving endangered wildlife. And so if I can jump into that, how that got started was, like you said, we go down this path of life and we think that's what it is. And so that's basically how I was. It was like, you're going to graduate high school and you're going to graduate it at these goals. And then you're going to do this for undergrad. And then you're going to do this for law school. And then you're going to pass the bar. And then I was like, okay, there's nothing else. Like,
Good PhD, I guess.
yeah, if you wanted to go that route, right? And I was just like, okay, I want to find something that actually fulfills me, but doesn't take away from my profession either, right? Like I knew I didn't want to switch professions. And I've always loved animals. And so 2 years ago, I decided to just jump in the deep end and go to South Africa and learn about the organizations that I was following on Facebook, and like just learn from researchers and really see what was out there, what could be done. And I interviewed a lot of people here locally that I consider incredibly in the know. And a lot of them had no clue what was happening to most of the animals. Like, you don't even have to go as far as South Africa. They didn't know what was happening in our Everglades. And so I realized there was a need at least in the Miami community. And I quickly developed partners why South Africa? Because the rhino is my favorite animal. And so that's kind of where I wanted to start. So I developed partners there. I've since developed partners locally. The Miami Zoo is a great partner. F-Stop Foundation is another great partner locally. They're doing a lot of great work with the Everglades. And so the idea is just really become a platform where people can get information about how, and it's not drastic things, it's just how can you live your life in a way that does benefit these animals as well. You know, doing your small part.
Okay, so I got a lot of questions, a lot of different ways we could go with that. So, do you feel like I know you 2 years ago you kind of like had this passion and you were able to act out on it. Do you think like following that, because to just go say, hey, I'm going to go to South Africa, and which is like probably just a fun trip anyways, but hey, I'm going to go to South Africa and like investigate and see if there's like, you know, maybe you didn't, I don't know if you did, but maybe you didn't like have like know exactly what you were going to start just yet, but you had this kind of like inspiration where you're just going to go kind of like figure it out and see where it takes you, where like a lot of people would feel that and like just like not follow through on it, right? Like you've got like this idea, but I'm curious, like was it the inspiration to like go see that part through, to like, hey, I've got this idea where I feel like I need to go to South Africa to figure this out? Was it more that, or was it more like I'm kind of like feeling somewhat unfulfilled in like the legal space and I need something else, or like a combination?
So although I love what I do, it wasn't fulfilling. To me, it's a job. It's not, you know, I didn't feel like I was really giving back. Although I am helping my clients, I didn't feel I was giving back. And to answer your question, I think it absolutely was from a space of, okay, let me look at why I'm not fulfilled here and kind of do personal growth around that, rather than the trip inspiring me. The trip was a result of me really looking at my life and being like, okay, I can be someone that, and there's nothing wrong with it, I can be someone that just, okay, this is my profession and I'm going to stick it out and I'm going to make the most of it. But what I saw for myself was I can do both, and I can do both well, and I can, I didn't have to sacrifice one thing or the other, was how I saw it. Because I think in life we're taught it's this or that. And I got to a place where I realized, no, it can be and here we are. So.
Well, I think so. Yeah, I think probably a lot of, you know, attorneys watching, or, you know, hopefully watching, but you know, it's a very intense profession, right? I mean, everyone's job is tough. Like everyone's job is tough, but it is a very, you know, demanding profession, especially if you're like at a bigger law firm, or, you know, you're reporting to other people. It can be tough. So for someone like that, because those actually tend to be the ones who want to get out of the profession the most. Yeah. Like, is it feasible for someone at, you know, like at a bigger law firm or something? Or I know you just have, you know, one partner, but I mean, it's obviously feasible, but I'd be interested, you know, like, why is it feasible? How do you make it feasible and maybe before you like say that, like, is it a full-time job, like 50-50 law and reclaimed earth, or? So
at first it started as just like a pet project when I had time for it. Mm-hmm. But the more I delved into it, the more satisfied I felt. So it very quickly grew. And it by the end of, I want to say the first year, it was 50-50. Like I was working probably even, I'd say, more hours on reclaimed earth than I was, because there's so much to it, right? Like it's just such a different entity to run.
And a brand new business. I mean, it's a new business.
Yeah. And I was establishing myself in all of these communities that, I mean, to them, I'm just some lawyer who knows nothing about science or animals, and I'm, you know, trying to make my way through it. So I did dedicate a lot of time. As far as like how an attorney that works at a big firm could do both, I have no doubt there's a way to do it. I wouldn't be able to speak to that because, to be honest, I knew I didn't want to go big firm route and I stayed away from that. So I have no idea what their life demands really in practice look like, right? Like I know what my friends' lives look like from the outside. But I think that, I mean, to me, it's all a mindset. And really, there's so many things parts in life that aren't beneficial to us, that if you really took the time to like And that was one of the things I had to start off with, right? Like, what am I spending my time on that I could be spending my time doing either work or reclaimed earth? And I had to drop a lot of things. And I feel like the more satisfied you are, the like it gives you value. So the more willing you are to look at those things and adjust, right? And it's really finding that thing that really lights you up. Because
Yeah.
I think that finding just a pet project isn't going to do it. You know, like it has to be that thing that you feel you were put on this earth to do.
Well, and I mean, it's very cliche, but you know, when you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life, sort of thing. And I mean, I think that for me personally, that, you know, I genuinely love, you know, what I'm doing. And so if I were to tally up the hours that I actually, you know, work, it's like, oh, it's a lot, you know, it's a lot of time. But I don't do it out of like a have to obligation or like dreading it sort of thing. It's genuinely enjoyable.
Yeah. And that's where that's the key to it all, finding what does that for you. And if it's the log, like by all means focus on that, you know. But if there's something that you've been subduing in the back of your mind, or saying like, oh, when I retire, or when, you know, whenever in the future, whatever your marker is,
Yeah.
I think that you're selling yourself short, because that's a satisfaction you can be getting now.
So what was it that, because again, like what I said a little bit ago, is that a lot of people, and to your point, you know, I'll do that when I retire or when I have the time, and like the time never comes, right? Like, or, you know, something, there's always some sort of thing. So, and not everyone is able to just jump out and, you know, even explore, right? It's like you didn't necessarily start out saying, hey, I want to start a nonprofit. I think you just like
Right.
kind of had this like idea, and you just kind of like followed it where it went, and you just kept pursuing it until it's become, you know, what it's become. But that's hard for a lot of people to take that second step. So do you, like, what do you accredit that to? What do you accredit to like being able to do that?
So I told you I was in a space of like personal development and like inquiry, and I took a course. It's called Landmark, and essentially the purpose of the course is to discover what kind of life stuck on you that now we label limiting beliefs, right? Like what happened throughout your life that made you believe that only this set of facts was possible for your life. And, you know, applying the stuff I learned there, I got that the only reason I hadn't chased after this dream before was because somewhere down the line, I had it that you can only do one thing, you know, like this was the route I went on life, and now I'm stuck here. And as soon as I realized, and people are different, they take different times to process, but as soon as I realized that, I was like, okay, let's go. You know, like I've, as a kid, if you would have asked me what I thought I was going to be, it was usually a lawyer. And then on other days, it was, I want to go be a national, like a Nat Geo photographer in the wild. And, you know, but your parents are like, or at least my parents were, you're not going to make money doing that. How about we stick with the lawyer one, you know? And so that got nurtured. But that desire to be in with the wild was always there.
Very cool. Well, so I think, yeah, I think we could probably like talk on that piece of it for hours and hours. So, but maybe, you know, since we keep mentioning Reclaim Earth, what exactly do you all do? Like what's kind of like the mission of Reclaimed Earth?
The current structure, we have three big components. One is we do fun style events that you'd want to come to anyway, and have the conservation component. So for instance, I flew a researcher from South Africa that I've worked with before and had him come in, and we went to a brewery and we did like the beer tastings, and he gave a talk about his work while there. We've done South African wine nights where, you know, a wine shop will open up just South African wines, talk about the history of wine in South Africa, and then add in the component of conservation and how, you know, when you travel, you can make choices. So it's really just education in a way that our community would want to be like, I would think it's easier for someone to come to that than a lecture, right? Like a straight lecture.
Right.
Especially when we just said time is so precious to us. So that's one. We have these educational, fun programming. Then two is we create partnerships with the partners I've created. So for instance, we have in South Africa, our partners are Wild Tomorrow Fund, and their goal is basically to create the enlargement of protected areas. So in the specific area, not to get too much in the details of it, but to give you an understanding of it, in the specific area that they've now started supporting the reserve, at some point, communities had killed off all the wildlife. Then in 60 years ago or so, they decided, okay, let's repopulate the area. But the problem was the land was already used for cattle, for pineapple farms, for all sorts of stuff. So this one group of people put together a smaller piece of land and said, okay, well, we're rewilding this. Fast forward, Wild Tomorrow Fund got involved, and they're going around and basically making deals with farmers where in a specific order or like in a specific time frame, they'll sell the property to the reserve so that we can continue enlarging that property. So with organizations like that, they also need support because they're in the field. How do you bring that message out, right? So we bring that message out and we introduce them to people like Zoo Miami or F-Stop. F-Stop, actually, I got introduced to them by F-Stop, which was ironic because they're right here in the Everglades. But F-Stop does camera traps. And so the idea is just how can, one person needs something, let's create partnership among the other organizations that have the same goal, basically. So that's another way. And then we also do volunteer. So we have a volunteer trip, hopefully still coming up in September. We're waiting on, travel news on whether international travel will be allowed. And we take a small group, it's usually about 8 people, to that reserve, and you get to work hands-on with the baby rhinos, with baby elephants. And so those are our 3 big components right now. And through that, we help fund things. So the most recent was because of the COVID lockdown, there's a herd of 15 elephants in KwaZulu-Natal that we've supported. When they started their orphanage, we helped a lot, we were involved. And so because of the lockdown, the lodge that normally funds all their operations had no income. So we were able to send 15 grand over to hold them over during this time. And it's a blessing to be able to say that, they don't have to worry about anything because we were able to provide that.
That's awesome. Very cool. So what, so I mean, it sounds like, fundraising, education piece of it, and then, also a hands-on volunteering kind of component of it, which is cool. I mean, it sounds like what I think is neat about it is that you kind of get to work with and be exposed to a bunch of different causes and a bunch of different, organizations, and I mean, all still working for this, I guess, common good, but you're not like tied to one thing specifically. It doesn't sound like you kind of
No. So a lot of organizations do. They pick like, oh, we're just going to fund rhino stuff, or we're just going to fund. I felt that there's some need across the board, and if my primary goal was always education, there's going to be some point where in enough about a rhino, so I kind of wanted to create this. It's global. It's not just South Africa. We have been in talks with an organization in India to hopefully start doing trips and volunteerism out there. But the idea is just bring awareness to, and primarily for me, it was you generally go to these when you're traveling. So I really wanted to create education around, listen, don't get caught up in the hype of X, Y, and Z. This is the impact on the animal, and there is a way to enjoy that travel and enjoy being in the space of that animal in a way that respects that species, right? Yeah. And so that's kind of how I decided what we were going to be part of.
Very cool. Well, so I know events probably not happening, so much right now, but how can people get involved? How can people, find you and all that stuff?
Okay, so we have a website. It's reclaimedearthwildlife.com, and our Instagram handle is the same. It's Reclaimed Earth Wildlife. Right now, we've done some fundraising on like Facebook or Instagram, but really we're now at a point where we're deciding whether things are going to be able to be live soon or if we're pivoting to virtual events. Our partners just had an event on Saturday. They raised over $60,000. I was very excited for them. And they basically, they're creating, like if you've seen the Disney sing-alongs, like that's basically it. Like what we're doing now, but with, we bring in a band to play at some point, and then, it's a huge production, but we're thinking if by July things haven't shifted for travel, we're going to be doing a virtual trip. And the idea is you'll have an opportunity to walk with the rangers, do like it'll be like a live session each day with the rangers out there, different activities. And then you'll have like homework here where you have to do something, whether it's, clean up in your neighborhood or, see what birds you can spot in your backyard or build a bird feeder or whatever, right? Like we've got all these ideas. But the goal is that you're still participating from a virtual perspective and still learning and still being exposed to the people that are on the ground doing this work. Because I think that's the most important part.
I think that's an awesome idea. I think you guys should do that anyways. Yeah, you should do something. I think that's
maybe.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Well, again, Yvette, thank you for being on here. I love the work you all are doing. Everyone watching needs to get involved. Check out the Instagram and website and all of that.
Thank you so much for all of your support. Yeah. It means a lot, and I'm excited to be on here. I love that you do this show.
Well, like you said, at some point people will know enough about rhinos. I figured at some point people don't want to learn any more about probate. So this is a little bit, mix it up a little bit. I don't even want to know more about probate. So, well, thank you, Yvette. Appreciate it. And we'll talk to you soon. Thank you, guys.
All right. Thanks.